What's up, YouTube? Every year we take a big trip out west with friends. This year was no different. This time we're going to explore Idaho and Montana.
We don't need a destination, let's go where the river's taking us.
I didn't mean to take a picture.
This video actually begins in Oregon, Lakeview, Oregon to be exact, at the King's Cafe. We had stopped here for breakfast after leaving the day before from Overland Expo P&W. Matt and Dawn had just picked up their new Appalachian X from Atlas down in St. George, and they were on their way north, while we were headed south and east from Oregon down into Nevada. The plan was to meet them in Elko, Nevada, and do the last section of the Nevada BDR before starting the Idaho BDR in Jarbidge. Today's travel will be mainly on road, as we would make our way across the beautiful landscape of southeastern Oregon. With the city of Elko in a rearview mirror, we set our sights on the Memorial Canyon. This is where we planned to find a camp for the night and wait on Matt and Dawn to meet up with us for the next day. This is the largest canyon in the Ruby Mountains, and a lot of people argue that it's the most beautiful. I can't say that I disagree. Shortly after we got camp set up, the sun began to drop, and Matt and Dawn showed up with their new Appalachian.
Get over here. Come on, here.
We had all had a pretty long day, so as soon as they got in, got everything set up and situated, we all pretty much turned in for the night. After an awesome night's sleep, some coffee, and a quick breakfast, we were all pretty excited to get on the move. Good morning, campers from northern Nevada. This kicks off 3 weeks of incredible adventures through Idaho, through Montana, and who knows where from there. It's a beautiful day. It's going to be hot, but hopefully we head into some elevation. No, this is not a pair of broke down Jeeps. We had to do oil changes on both of them, and we decided this was the perfect place to do it. After our preventive maintenance and picking up some more supplies, we were officially on the road and headed to Jarbidge. About 50 miles north of Elko, we got off the blacktop and hit dirt. We didn't plan on hitting any other blacktop for several hundred miles, so it was time to air down. Not only did we air down the truck, but we also aired down the trailers. As we started getting into the foothills of the mountains, we started seeing old cabins like this one. Other things that we seen was telltale signs of old mining activity. You could tell there'd been a lot of prospectors in this area. By this time, we had started making our climb into the mountains. We were in this canyon, and it was lush and green, a stark contrast to what was outside of the canyon. As we climbed further up into the canyon, as we gained elevation, we started running into groves of aspen trees. It was about here where we had made enough elevation to where we started climbing out of the canyon and could really see our surroundings. The climb into the Jarbidge Mountains was getting more and more incredible with every turn. By the time we had reached the Bear Creek summit, we couldn't wait to see what was on the other side. We knew we were just a few short miles from Jarbidge. As we made our descent down into Jarbidge Canyon, we could already tell from the top that it was going to be different than what we had seen before. We had no idea just how different this canyon was going to be. Oh, and just a side note, if you've been paying attention and you see all those black dots moving around on the road, those are Mormon crickets, and they're everywhere up here. The road down into the canyon is very smooth, but it is a single one lane, and in places it's extremely tight right next to the edge of the drop-off. There are some places to pass, but you just have to be mindful. Once you make it down into the canyon, you're met with the Jarbidge River, and then all of the lush green vegetation in the basin of the canyon and the beautiful red rocks that surround it. Once you're down in the canyon in just a few short miles, you come into the cool little quaint town of Jarbidge, Nevada. This being the only place to get fuel for miles and miles, we went ahead and topped off our tanks here. After topping off the gas tanks, we decided that we could use a little topping off too. We decided to go into one of the more famous places in Jarbidge, the Outdoor Inn, and get some of the incredible pie that they offer. Jace tells us his mom bakes these pies homemade every day, including the crust, and we can attest they were delicious.
Custard's good too.
Is the custard good?
Real good.
Now, if you find yourself foundered on pie or other beverages in the bar, you can always catch a taxi ride. This fella here looks like he should have took a taxi ride. Looks like he got in some trouble around the trading post. The further we made it down the canyon, the more incredible the rock walls and rock formations became. Just as we passed out of Nevada and into Idaho, we found the perfect place to set up camp. It had been extremely dusty on the trail, so we used the external air hose coupler on the Appalachian to blow off all the seams to try to keep as much dust as possible from getting onto the inside of the cabinets or the interior of the trailer. After getting all the seams blown off, we opened everything up, fixed dinner, and had a beautiful evening by the creek.
John's first breakfast on our Appalachian. Aspen's Garnet.
Yeah.
Look, there's already a skeeter stuck to the top of the butter.
The bill, we had a car, the whole thing was like, good boy.
When we left you on the last episode, we had finished up the northern section of the Nevada BDR. After filling our stomachs and our water tanks, it was time to get on the trail. We would be starting the Idaho BDR from here and making our way north. If you watched our last episode, then you know that we had found camp right on the Nevada-Idaho border, and that's where we'll be starting the day. And this is Jarbidge Canyon.
Good morning, campers. Another beautiful night in Idaho this time. We had just crossed over the state line. Stayed in a beautiful canyon. This is the Jarbidge Creek Canyon. We stayed right where two rivers come together and form the bigger one, which leads into some Class 3, Class 4 rapids for those who like to play on the water. For today, we're going to continue our way, making our way out of the canyon and into the great expanses of the southern Idaho desert. Hang on, it's going to be a fun and dusty ride.
As you climb your way up out of the canyon, you find yourself on the very expansive high desert of southern Idaho. This section was very flat, it was smooth, and fast. You could see the mountains off into the distance with the snow caps, and those were pretty cool to look at. Other than that, it was just wide expanse of nothing. By the time we made it to the Snake River, it was time to air up, as we would be on Blacktop for a little bit before making our way into Glenn's Ferry for lunch.
I hope there's places sitting inside.
After having a really good lunch at the stop drive-in, we continued our way north and back off the Blacktop. We continued our way across the high desert, but could see the greener mountains coming up in the distance. The closer we got to the mountains, the more texture and elevation changes that the terrain started having. Aspen trees grow at different elevations up here in Idaho. In places like Colorado and Utah, they grow at elevations of about 8,000 feet. Here, they start around 6,000. Making our way north of US 20 and headed towards the South Fork of the Boise River, the Anderson Ranch Dam came into view. The Anderson Ranch Dam was built in 1950. Its primary purpose was for irrigation, and a secondary purpose was for hydroelectric power. It covers a little over 4,800 acres, and now serves as a great asset for fishing, boating, and camping. We were really hoping to be able to catch a campsite along the lake. But before we could find a campsite, we had to make our way down into the gorge and across the dam. Once you make your way across the dam, the road follows the shore of the lake along the west side. We drove along the shoreline for several miles and was striking out on finding any kind of campsite. We did find a dock to stop by and just enjoy the water for a little bit before traveling on. I think we could have sat here all day, but the real goal was to try to find a campsite along the shore to where we could spend the rest of the evening. We completely struck out across the southern access of the reservoir, so we decided to cross over the hill and check out the northern access part to see if we could find something there.
Down there, that farthest end.
Yeah.
Scan the bank there and see if there's anything that you think might work.
Well, we completely struck out about finding a campsite along the river, but we did find one right along this stream. On the menu tonight was Mexican. It was Mexican night around camp. This was also a good time to clean off some of the dust from the windshields and the filters from the long day of the dusty ride.
Matt, you go over do mine when you get done.
Yeah, there's
tomato on our
tomatoes
side.
over there. Go get you some, Matt. I cut up a great big one.
Yeah, I'm gonna air down a little bit.
We could tell there was more to the creek than what was right there just by the sound. So we decided to go see where the bigger noise was coming from. And this is what we found.
No, I ain't.
After dinner and a little stroll, it was time to sit around and enjoy the rest of the night. Guess you can probably tell what I'm doing. It's not all just about relaxing. Sometimes you gotta work a little bit out here. That being said, it is a pretty cool office.
What are you doing to that biscuit?
A lot of mustard. I love mustard. On my sausage.
It's straight out of Sling Blade, ain't it?
Yes, sir.
In Idaho, apparently huckleberry is a pretty big thing, so we stopped at a store yesterday. Deb picked up some wild huckleberry jelly. I tried it a minute ago. Should have got that on video, the initial expression, but it really wasn't anything big. This is really good stuff, so I didn't spit it out or anything. Get you some huckleberry jelly. It's pretty good.
With 30 gallons of water on board, we weren't anywhere near running out, but we did want to top off just to make sure. You never know when you're going to be on a long stretch between water. Leaving camp and making our way into the Trinity Mountains, this is exactly what I envisioned Idaho to look like.
Welcome to Idaho. Good morning, campers. We have finally made it into an area where it looks like what Idaho should look like. We are continuing our way north. Today we were finished up close to Pine yesterday. For the next 100 miles or so, we're going to be on nothing but dirt. Look forward to an exciting day filled with adventure and amazing views.
By mid-afternoon, we had made it to the middle fork of the Boise River. Matt and I had talked about wanting to do some fly fishing before the trip. We both had gathered up gear, got our license at a last town that we had stopped at. This was going to be the perfect place to give it a shot. The only thing we needed now was camp by the river. One of the first things we found along the river was a hot spring.
The hot springs.
Can't hear you.
This one's better.
Uh-huh.
It's hot.
What about that one over to your right? But you can step right out in the water there and it'd be cool.
Still hot out
What about right out there? Off to your left.
there. Right here it gets cold.
Just upstream from the hot spring, we found the perfect campsite to set up for the afternoon and into the night. This is not something we normally do, but we decided to unhook, kind of like a base camp, so we could move up and down the river to fish and to go to the hot springs a little bit later in the evening.
Let's hop off. Got a little dusty.
The temperature was in the 80s and the weather was gorgeous. It was a perfect day to just sit around by the river and relax.
You're gonna be a drowned rat. You're gonna fall. Just walk through it. Let's add the things that I had like half meats of. What'd you eat, a Reuben sandwich?
As the sun started to go down behind the mountains, we all made our way down to the hot springs. That's where Deb and Dawn got into the hot springs, and Matt and I done a little fishing.
That's where we almost died. We almost got ate by a snake.
Well, I didn't run. I was there, but I just didn't know what else to do.
Apparently, Dawn and Deb are not the only ones that like the hot springs. There are all kinds
smaller
of these
than the
gopher
other one.
snakes around. Apparently, they like it pretty well too. Getting to camp early and just relaxing was a great change of pace. We really enjoyed it, and it may be something we do a little more in the future. This morning we had woke up to rain. It was the first rain that we had had since we had been in this part of the country. We decided to forego breakfast and just go ahead and get on the trail. The rain wasn't supposed to last long, so as soon as it settled down, we were going to stop and have breakfast.
Road, or I'm going to deploy the canopy back out and start making coffee.
Continuing our way down the middle fork of the Boise River, we noticed that the hot spring that we had found earlier yesterday was not the only hot spring along this river. There were actually multiple different places that had hot springs. Some were just as not as easy to get to as the other ones were. A few miles downstream from where we camped, it was time to depart the river valley and start climbing and making some elevation. After making a quick 1,200-foot climb, the rain had stopped, so we decided to pull over for breakfast.
I can eat a big lunch. Oh, sorry.
Did you bring a toaster with you?
I did. I mean, this is quick.
Yeah.
This was a really nice pull off and had plenty of room for what we were going to do. But as we looked behind where we had just came from, we realized that there was an epic campsite just down below us, and we had to go check it out, and that's where we would have breakfast and coffee. Had it been very much later than 10 o'clock in the morning, we probably would have stopped right here for the rest of the day and camped. If you watched our channel at all, then you know that we couldn't just sit at this campsite all day and wonder what was around the next corner or over the next mountain. We had to keep moving and search for adventure. We made it across the peak of the mountain here, and when we crossed over into the other side, it was quite a bit different, as it hadn't been burned yet. There wasn't near as many dead pine trees, and everything here was green, lush, and full. didn't seem like long at all before we crossed a couple ridges and found our way into the watershed of the North Fork of the Boise River. The weather had definitely changed from this morning, but the water was still just as crystal clear as the other river. We followed this river for several miles before we ran into a little bit of a hiccup.
We met it right here, and there was a road closed, so we're going to have to reroute. We're going to come back, go down to here, and then make our way north to catch back up with the trail.
The reroute didn't necessarily take us a whole long way out of the way, but it definitely took us away from the river and the lush green vegetation that was around us. We were back in another large area of dead trees that were either killed by fire or disease. This area here didn't have a whole lot of char on the ground. It just looked like another form of a wasteland. As views of the creeks came into light, you could see a little bit of life along those. This trail was not all completely smooth. It did have a few obstacles like this washout here. Some people might worry about pulling a trailer through a situation like this. Luckily, with the Atlas products, you normally have higher ground clearance with your trailer than you do with your tow vehicle. We continue making our way through the mountains, through the burned or killed vegetation, occasionally stepping out and finding a beautiful vista like this from time to time. Another sight that surprised us was all the butterflies along this trail. As we started nearing the end of our detour, we started seeing a blacktop road come into view. It was a good thing. It was time for some gas.
So stop for gas, no gas.
Along with the gas tanks needing to fill up, our stomachs was needing the same thing. So we decided to stop here at the Loman Inn and get some pizza. You could tell this place had probably been around for a while, but the reviews said they had incredible pizza. So we sat around and waited for our lunch to come. We chatted a little bit about the trip so far, admired some of the mounts on the ceiling, and then Deb started attracting the neighborhood pets. I guess they picked out the easy target of who would share their lunch with them. While we continued to wait for our lunch, the skies began to darken again. That sound is not just rain. It was hail. We're just glad it wasn't any bigger than what it was. After getting our bellies full, it was still time to search for a gas station to get the gas tank filled up.
Third time's a charm for gas.
Yep. Thankfully, we got extra.
Lucky number 3. We have fuel.
We filled our tanks and headed back into the mountains. This time, the visibility was not as good as it was when we came down out of the mountains. As a matter of fact, it was even worse than it was this morning when we first got up and started moving. With the clouds as thick as they were and visibility being so limited and the trees being dead all around, it really gave an eerie feeling. As it got later in the afternoon, the cloud cover started to lighten and rays of sunshine started to poke through. By the time late afternoon came, the sun had completely popped back out. We were now at the Deadwood Reservoir and was hoping to find a campsite along the lake. The only problem is it was going to be pretty tough because this was the 4th of July. Even though we were looking for camp, we didn't let that hurry our pace any. We still wanted to stop and check out the scenes, just like walking out on the dam here at Deadwood Reservoir. I don't know how thick this dam is at the bottom, but it's hard to believe that that right there is all that's holding this water back. We searched all along the lake shore with no results of finding a campsite. We were ultimately able to find one several miles upstream from the reservoir, and this was a really nice private site. Well, there wasn't any grand vistas. We were right down in the valley with the stream running and the beautiful clouds for the sunset. We had plenty of room for both of the rigs and the trailers, and a nice campfire in the middle. This was poised to be another awesome night in the Idaho wilderness. With the new day brought new adventures. We were headed north, making our way towards Yellow Pine. With the amount of dust and dirt off-road trails that we had done, the polyurethane bushings were starting to make some noise. It was time to give them some attention with a grease gun at our next campsite. We made it into the small town of Yellow Pine just in time for lunch. Yellow Pine is a really cool little town with an annual population of only 32 people, but it caters all year round to overlanders, off-roaders, ATVers, adventure bikers, and snowmobilers alike. We decided to go into the corner cafe here and have some lunch.
So this is Kevin. We are in Yellow Pine, Idaho, and we found somebody that watches the channel. How cool is that?
It's crazy to think out of a population of only 32 people that at least 3 of them knew who we were and watch our channel on a regular basis. After hanging out in Yellow Pine and making some new friends, it was time to continue our way on north. We left Yellow Pine heading up the East Fork of the Salmon River, making our way toward Elk Summit. When we crossed the Deadwood Summit earlier, it was just under 7,000 feet. There was some snow up there, but we had no idea how much snow would be at the top of the Elk Summit, which is over 8,500 feet. When we crossed over the pass and started headed down the north side of the slope, we had hoped that we had escaped any snowdrifts that there might still be. That was not the case. This drift was nearly 3 foot high and had a pretty abrupt edge right there where the driver's side front tire is. I decided to test it out just to see if we could get up and over it without sinking in it. After realigning for a little better angle, we gave it a shot. At this point, I was thinking we might actually have a chance just to crawl right on over this thing. When the back tires hit and started to spin and slide me down toward the side of the road, I realized then that it was not going to work. Every time we'd try to get up on the snow, it moved us closer and closer to the edge. So we decided the smart thing was pull a line, set up a winch, and just pull ourselves up over this drift.
Cut it right, passenger.
Once we got the truck up on the snow, we decided we still probably needed to soften the approach angle for the trailers. Appalachian followed the truck right on up over the snowdrift without any problems at all.
That's some sketchy shit.
After getting ours out of the way, it was time for Matt to get his Wrangler over. We'd already packed down a pretty good path with my truck and trailer, so we were hoping it was going to be a lot easier for Matt to get across. Matt was able to keep his rig right in my tracks and came across without any issues whatsoever. We didn't even have to pull line for him. As nerve-wracking as that may have seemed, it was a lot of fun to be able to find a problem and have to work through getting over that obstacle. Once we got done, we continued making our way down the narrow mountain road. There wasn't a whole lot of dispersed camping opportunities along this route, but what we did find was a really nice Forest Service campground right along the river here. Got set up pretty quick and had a delicious dinner. We woke up to a gorgeous morning and then had a conversation about what animals we heard and seen throughout the night.
Yeah, right in the woods right there. There can't be any wild. It must have been a kitty cat that you saw, not a big cat.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If he's seen a chicken, then that was probably a
no
house
big
cat.
cat. No big cat around here.
Sometimes things don't always go as planned. Last night we got to camp, we realized that there was a fluid leaking out from underneath of the Gladiator. After some inspection, we realized that it was antifreeze, and further inspection, we've got a radiator leak right along one of the cores on the aluminum radiator. So we are absolutely in the middle of nowhere right now. So our closest town is McCall. It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes away. Luckily, I do have some extra antifreeze. We're going to get that put in and make our way on into McCall. But just make sure you have extra stuff with us. If we would have had something like JB Weld, which I normally do carry, but I don't happen to have with me, then I could have made this repair in the field. We wouldn't have had any problem. But now we've got to try to get to town to be able to get some supplies. We're going to get this antifreeze cleaned up, and then we're going to be on our way.
We were lucky that the leak wasn't very big, but it was enough to be concerned about. We got everything cleaned up here at camp, topped off the floods, and started making our way on into McCall. The drive up out of the canyon was beautiful, as was the whole rest of the trail from where we were at on into McCall. We wish we could have taken a little bit more time to really enjoy our surroundings and some of the towns that we went through, but our mind was completely on getting the truck fixed and making sure that we were able to get to town before the leak became worse than it was, and we ended up in a position where we didn't have enough antifreeze or water to make it on in. This section really looked like it was packed full of history and a lot of scenic beauty. But I gotta tell you, our concentration was more on the gauges that was on the dash and making sure that we didn't have any overheating problems than it was what was outside the windows.
When we got to McCall, we realized the leak was in a location we couldn't fix with JB Weld. So we ended up going to Belgrade to pick up a new one.
The leak wasn't so bad that we couldn't drive it. We just had to keep an eye out on the antifreeze level. But it was bad enough that I didn't want to go into the Idaho backcountry knowing that we had a leak. By this point, it was early on a Monday morning. We were able to reach out to the guys at America's Most Wanted 4x4, and they were going to be shipping us a radiator to one of their authorized dealers in Montana. We had a day or so that we were going to have to wait to get the radiator here. So we decided to check out a few things that were not too far off the beaten path. There were some ghost towns in the area. We decided to go check those out. When you leave the blacktop for dirt, making your way towards Elkhorn, you're either in farmland or desert, but you can see the mountains up ahead of you, and it's not long before you get into them. Well before you hit the 7,000 feet elevation of the town site, you're already seeing old structures along the way. You'll also see a newer structure or two, as most all of the property in and around this town is privately owned. Precious metals were found throughout Montana in the later 1800s. The discovery of these metals sprung up several mining towns throughout the state, and Elkhorn was one of them. It was founded in 1872. It was a little bit different than other mining towns, which were mostly populated by single male workers. Elkhorn was more of a family town. At its height, it had over 2,500 residents. It didn't last very long, as the population fell off in the early 1900s, and that was mostly from the silver prices dropping and diphtheria epidemic, which tragically killed many of the local children. The town had two main gathering places, the Gillian Hall and the Fraternity Hall, and those places are still intact and they're still open to the public. As a matter of fact, this less than an acre parcel that these two buildings stand on is Montana's smallest state park. For the rest of the town is private property. They have put up signs, some with pictures showing you what was in these locations back in the heyday of Elkhorn. After taking a look through town, we decided to drive on up the mountain to see if we could get a closer look at the mines. After exploring town, we drove a little bit further up onto the mountain. It is here where you'll find the Elkhorn Cemetery. We left Elkhorn with a better understanding of how difficult it must have been to live up here in the late 1800s, and also the kind of hardships that they must have encountered. Later that evening, we met up with our friends Derek and Karen from Overland Defense. Montana treated us to an incredible sunset while we hung out and caught up with them.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Next morning, we were on the phone early, making arrangements to have our new radiator put in. As soon as we found that it was out for delivery, we packed up and were on our way to the shop.
Bye.
Even though we were anxious to get the truck repaired, we had to stop and admire this beautiful eagle. We made it to DP Conversions, or Diesel Pros, in Belgrade, Montana. They're an authorized installer for America's Most Wanted 4x4. They have a really great facility here. They have a lot of off-road products. If you're ever in the area and you might need something, these are the guys to look for. As soon as we got there, they jumped on the Gladiator and got us fixed up in no time. Once the new radiator was installed, we turned around, got hooked back up, and was going to be on the road again. From here, we were going to be driving back northwest to meet up with Matt and Dawn. We met up with Matt and Dawn and drove into the night north of Missoula to try to find a campsite. We found a couple campsites on our Overlander overlooking Missoula and thought that would be the best place to set up for the night. The plan from there was to leave there the next morning and make our way on north towards Polebridge, Montana to restart our adventure. It seemed like we climbed for what would be forever. All you could see was total darkness off the right side and city lights off into the distance. We had already had dinner, so it was just a matter of setting up camp and calling it a night. The next morning, we woke up with an incredible view from camp. We kind of had an idea we might have a view when we camped here last night, but we really had no idea how pretty it was going to be. Some of us were not as enthusiastic as others. I think Aspen was still tired from the day before. After coffee and breakfast, it was time to head north. The plan was to get up somewhere around Glacier National Park today. But before we could make our way north, we had to get back off of this beautiful mountain that we had climbed the night before. Looking down now, we could see the road below that we had traveled up. We found an incredible campsite right beside the creek, just north of Hungry Horse, and decided this was the perfect place to set up a base camp and go explore Glacier for the rest of the afternoon. After we secured the trailers with the Gears Master locks, we set out for another adventure in an amazing national park. Just a few short minutes from where we had set up camp, we crossed the bridge and into Glacier National Park.
That's a baby moose.
Is that a baby moose?
Baby moose.
No, that's a deer and he's panting hard. It's a deer.
Our first stop was at Lake McDonald. We've always seen pictures of the colorful rocks in this lake and had to see them for ourselves. We dipped our toes into the water and it was extremely cold. I don't know how there was people swimming in it. After checking out the frigid water, we decided to get some huckleberry ice cream.
Huckleberry. That was gross.
From Apgar, we hopped on to Going to the Sun Road. It was later in the afternoon, so we didn't have to have a ticket. We've been watching clouds pretty much all day and knew at some point the rain was going to catch up with us. But we were here now, and rain or shine, we were going to enjoy this drive. We've been around rivers and streams throughout our travels all over the United States, but this has to be some of the clearest water that we've ever seen. For several miles up this road, you follow along the river, and it's beautiful sight after beautiful sight, waterfall after waterfall. At about 12 or 15 miles on the road, you start seeing the rugged mountains come clearly into view. Of course, we already had the rain and the clouds, but we had no idea just how low the clouds was going to be when we got to the top of the mountain. Another thing we didn't know about was how narrow the road got as it scaled up the side of this mountain along the switchbacks. The higher we climbed, the more beautiful the views became, and the closer we got to the clouds. By the time we got to the peak of the mountain, you could barely see anything around you. We even tried to pull into the parking lot of the visitor center, but couldn't even see the building. We were able to see this bighorn sheep, who appeared to be as disoriented as we were because of the fog. We could have turned around here and made our way back down the mountain, but we had made it this far. We wanted to see what was on the other side. And starting down the other side was just as cloud covered and foggy as the previous side. We only hoped that we ran out of it soon.
That's creepy.
Just like the other side, by the time we lost some elevation, we got below the cloud deck. And it was at this point we were trying to decide whether we make the drive all the way around or go back over going to the Sun Road.
Yeah, it's 10th of July and it's 46 degrees. Crazy.
It was after 6:30 in the evening, so we decided to turn around and go back the way we came. The other way around would have been lower in elevation, but it would have taken us a lot longer to get back to camp. We really didn't want to get back to camp after dark. So that being our decision, we were ready to drive back through the clouds again. By the time we got back to the top of the mountain, visibility had definitely improved.
Yeah, it's a big old...
At this point, we're really glad that we decided to come back across the mountain. The blue skies were starting to push through the clouds, and it was really, really beautiful. It also gave us a perspective of how close everybody was to the wall while we were coming up on the outside of the road. In a national park, you always know when there's wildlife around. There's always going to be a traffic jam. This one happened to be a mama and her cub playing in the middle of the road. After coming down off of the switchbacks, we were right back into the lush greenery of the forest floor below. We also stopped at a few other waterfalls that we hadn't checked out on the way up because it was simply raining too hard.
Damn, there's a hole there.
We made it back to camp well before dark and had plenty of time to enjoy our sight and enjoy the view from the Flathead River looking straight across into the Glacier National Park.
What's on the menu tonight?
Leftovers. You and Matt are eating that, me and Dawn are eating our leftovers. Leftovers. Y'all are getting hot dogs. Hot dogs. Box.
Sure was a relief to be able to get back on the trail today. Things always don't go as planned. You just got to keep your head up with a positive attitude, and things will work out. I had always wanted to see the varied colors of McDonald Lake. I had no idea we would get an opportunity to camp right by a river with the same kind of colors. At this point in the trip, mornings are pretty routine, just trying to do morning things and a little bit of work at the same time. After taking care of all the morning necessities, it was time to get on the move. Today's plan was to continue making our way north along the Flathead River and eventually getting to the cool little area of Polebridge. We camped about 40 minutes south of Polebridge, so it didn't take us very long to get there.
To your place.
By the time we got there this morning, this little general store in the middle of nowhere was already bustling. They've turned what was originally just a little general store into an entire community. A couple different restaurants, and the Sasquatch Grill was one that we just couldn't resist. After having lunch, we had to explore the Polebridge Merchantile. We gathered up a couple of gifts and some pastries and was on the move again. At this point, it was time to head back south. We had driven up the main route, but on the way back, we wanted to take something a little less traveled, and that's when we hit a little more of the mountain roads rather than the main one along the river. As we traveled through the Coal Creek State Forest, we could see Cyclone Lake off into the distance. I seen that there was a road that would get us down closer to it. We just had to go check it out. The road got us somewhat close to it, but we did still have to make a short hike to get out to the water's edge. While we were there, we met some locals that gave us a little bit of history about the area.
Well, if you look, there was a turnoff to go out to look up. That's it right there. You
Okay.
can hike up to there. It's
There
a
was
road
some
trail hike.
Forest Service vehicles
There
there.
was. Yeah. They're just cleaning things up.
Well, you
And
can't
then,
drive it.
but there's a place called
So
Hornet
people park
Lookout,
there and they hike up to the lookout. You
and
can't-
that's really you can camp up
there's-
there too.
Once we left this beautiful lake, we made our way on down the watershed of Langford Creek. By the time we made it back to Hungry Horse, it was getting later in the day. Matt and Dawn's time was coming to a close here in Montana, so we decided to drive later into the night and set up camp a little closer to where we wanted to see the next day. We found camp late last night, not too far from the ghost town that we wanted to see today. After having breakfast at camp, downloading a few videos, it was time to get moving and get to checking out one of the coolest ghost towns that we've ever seen. We were on our way to Garnet. Garnet Range Road, which comes off of 200, is a gravel road. It has quite a few washboards, but it's really not bad at all. This is the main route to get you to the ghost town of Garnet. Along the way, you'll start seeing some old structures like this one, long before you ever get to Garnet, and they're all worth stopping and checking out.
Is a huckleberry bush.
You think?
I think.
Along the way, there's also a couple of overlooks, such as this one.
That's pretty.
Seen Aspen out to there.
Somebody runs out there in transit real fast.
About 10 miles from where you left Blacktop, you'll find the ghost town of Garnet. The ghost town of Garnet is said to be one of the best preserved ghost towns in all of Montana. It began its boom in the 1890s, and by the mid-90s, it had 4 stores, 4 hotels, 3 livery stables, 2 barber shops, a union hall, a large school with up to 41 students, a butcher shop, candy shop, doctor's office, assay office, and up to 13 saloons comprised this little town. Over 1,000 people resided in the town of Garnet in 1898. The boom only lasted 10 or 15 years. By 1905, many of the mines were abandoned, and the town's population had shrunk down to around 150. A fire destroyed a lot of the town's business in 1912, but they were quickly built back, and by the 1940s, Garnet was a ghost town. We had a great time exploring this awesome town. We have a lot more video footage than what we're showing on here, and we're going to be doing a full video of just this town sometime soon. There are dozens of buildings here, from stores to cabins, that you can walk through, check out, and really just take a step back in history. I invite you to walk along with us as we show you just a few of them. After leaving Garnet, we again chose the path less traveled. We decided to head south out of Garnet and make our way down towards Beartown. This route is not nearly as heavily traveled as the route in from 200. It's mostly single lane wide, and in some parts it's just a 2-track with some grass in the middle of it. The views are incredible as you twist your way down the mountain. When we got to the bottom of the mountain, we had made our way to the metropolis of Beartown, and that's where we said our goodbyes to Matt and Don as they would be heading on towards South Dakota from here, and Deb and I still had some things that we wanted to check out here in Montana. The gravel road from Beartown to the interstate still had a lot of history along it. Once we got down to the lower end of it, you could see where old dredge works were on both sides of the road where they had dredged for gold. By the time mid-afternoon came, we had found ourselves on Rock Creek. This is supposed to be one of the best trout fishing creeks anywhere in southern or southwestern Montana. We wanted to find us a place to set up camp along the creek here and enjoy a little bit of fly fishing. The ride along this stream was extremely beautiful, and it was exactly what I always thought Montana would look like. The problem was, all the campsites that we were finding were walk-in campsites. We completely struck out on finding a campsite along the creek, so it was time to move along and find camp somewhere else for the night.
something to you about OnX and their dispersed camping layer that they have. So it shows this road right here as dispersed camping. If you click on it, it says dispersed camping allowed on both sides of the road. While that may be true, it is misleading because there are no campsites whatsoever. This is a 40-foot wide road. It's a main corridor from one lake to another. Now, take that a step further. This road right here, as it's shown on here, it's supposed to be a Forest Service road that's available for dispersed camping. That Forest Service road no longer even exists. So before you jump on the OnX bandwagon and talk about their dispersed camping layer, you might ought to take a second look.
What had initially been planned as a mid to late afternoon campsite turned in ultimately to finding camp at a little bit after 8 o'clock at night. Well, this camp was not beside a prize-winning trout stream. It did have a creek running through it. It was private, and it was very nice. In addition to having the creek and a fire pit, somebody had cut up some firewood and left it here. So we decided to build us a little bit of campfire for the evening before everybody crashed out and went to sleep. Breakfast and pack down of camp was pretty quick the next morning as we had a big day planned. There were several different ghost towns in the area, and we wanted to go see a few of them. The first ghost town we got to in the morning was Coolidge. Coolidge was a small town created at the site of Montana's largest and final silver development. This town thrived a little bit later than a lot of the other ones. Its heyday was around 1919. By 1922, this town even had telephone and electric power. But, like a lot of ghost towns, it didn't last long. By the time the mine tunnel and operation were ready to go, the national economy had taken a downturn and silver prices had plummeted. By 1927, the town's creator, William Allen, had lost his personal fortune and control of property. And in 1932, the post office was discontinued and the mail route was ordered to Wise River. This is about the only fully standing structure in Coolidge now, but you can see a lot of remnants of the other ones that were around. By the looks of the houses, you would have thought this was a really thriving community. Today, Coolidge is visited by hundreds of visitors and even pack trips that go along a trail that goes through the town of Coolidge.
Gonna head back.
After leaving Coolidge, we continued making our way a little further south. The next ghost town that we wanted to go see was supposed to be in a little better shape.
Got your road sandwich?
Yep. Too hot to sit outside. Too many things we want to see. Stopped and made a road sandwich. Back on the trail.
Welcome to Bannack.
Bannack, Montana, a historic ghost town and now a state park, is significant for being the site of Montana's first major gold discovery in 1862. That sparked the gold rush here and established this town. For a short time, it was even the capital of the Montana Territory. The town's population quickly grew to over 3,000 within a year of the discovery of the gold, and reached a peak of over 5,000 people by the spring of 1863. This was a lawless town, and the rapid growth attracted outlaws, leading to the formation of the vigilante group. These vigilantes convicted and executed 22 people, including the suspected outlaw leader, Henry Plummer. It didn't take long for the rise and the fall of Bannack, just like a lot of other ghost towns in the area. The easily accessible gold was depleted, and by the 1940s, this town was largely a ghost town. Bannack is now a state park, and it gives you a glimpse into the historic buildings and what it was like to be right in the middle of one of Montana's biggest gold rush towns. After leaving Bannack in the dust, we set out across the Big Sky country to start looking for camp.
So we met at camp and got that leveled, but the back end of the truck's a little bit high, which puts the nose of the trailer a little high. So we're going to use our Fasterflate and just take some air out of the rear tires, and that's going to drop the back end enough to where it's level.
We found camp well before dark, overlooking a beautiful reservoir.
Gonna go swimming? He's like, you only got a piece. You left the big piece.
Good boy. Ready? Let go. Let go. No.
He's like, no, too far.
And on the menu tonight, pizza.
His kitchen.
You look like you're right up where you're supposed to be.
Because I'm standing on a stool. Because we are way off camber. But we're level because of the airbags. So I'm just going to use a stool. Because it's easiest that way. That looked good.
Pizza is one of my favorite meals anywhere, but especially out here on the road. And making it on flatbread like this, there's just something really good about it.
Here's your pizza.
Yum, yum.
Well, this campsite was fairly close to the road. It was really quiet and beautiful. It was definitely a place we'd consider coming back to camp at another time. When we left, we made our way down to the spillway, checked that out. But while we were there, we also was looking at the map. We seen that there was a road that headed east across the mountains and put us through several old gold mines. It was also the shortest way to a few popular towns that we wanted to go check out. Now by the map, this was going to be the shortest route, but we knew it wasn't going to be the smoothest. But that's exactly what we were looking for.
So, road's a little bit rocky, so we're going to take a little bit of pressure out. The cool thing about the Oversands is I'm just going to put them on and let them start deflating, and we're going to keep driving.
We continued our climb into the mountain as the Oversand tire deflators done their thing. As we made our way up this old road, we were hoping to see some remnants of mining. We had no idea what was in store for us. And these old cabins here on the right was just the beginning. By this point, we had seen several different structures, and we had made it to a point on the map that was only depicted by ruins on the Guy Overland layer. What we found was an unnamed mining camp area that time had seemed to have forgotten. Going back on historic topo maps through Gaia, I was able to find that this mine wasn't here in 1900, but it was in 1930, and it was the Marietta mine. The trail up to the Marietta mine wasn't bad at all, but from there, the trail did get rougher, a little bit tighter as well.
Well, I would call it a medium trail. That way.
Climbing the switchbacks near the top of the mountain, we got a really good view of the Barton Gulch. It was truly beautiful.
What do you got?
I've got a tree branch
Where did that come from?
from this dog. Jeez.
Now I know a lot of you have seen Aspen hanging out the window, but what you probably don't know is he loves to grab limbs like this one right here and bring them in. Brings a little bit of nature inside the vehicle with him. Cresting over the mountain meant that we were going to be making our way down into one of the more famous gulches in this area, and this was Alder Gulch. You may or may not recognize the name Alder Gulch, but Alder Gulch is the location of the largest surface find of gold anywhere in the Rocky Mountains. In early 1963, several prospectors had been out looking for gold and was on their way back to Bannack. They had stopped along this small unnamed stream and decided to set up camp.
After camp was set up, they wandered down the stream to try to find a little bit of gold dust so they could buy some tobacco when they got back to Bannack. What they ultimately would find was the largest surface area of gold anywhere in the Rocky Mountains. Of course, they tried to keep this a secret, but that didn't work. Within the first 3 years, the Gulch produced $30 million of gold. Just downstream from where this gold was found is where the towns Nevada City and Virginia City popped up. This stream or gulch ended up yielding a little over $120 million worth of gold in that time period, and it produced quite the bustle of people. At one time, there was over 10,000 people that lived along the stream. That's one of the coolest things about getting out here and just exploring. When we got up this morning, we had no idea we was going to be in such a historic place. I was just simply looking for a shortcut to make our way through the mountains to get to Nevada City and Virginia City. But what this shortcut turned into was one of the most historic and adventurous days that we had had on this whole trip. We really felt like we had found some part of history that not just everybody gets to see. There's nothing like rolling into Nevada City and seeing an original style stagecoach pass you by. Nevada City, Montana was found just below where they had discovered gold in Alder Gulch. It was established in 1863, right along with the discovery of the gold. By late 1863, there was as many as 2,000 residents in this small town. By 1880, there were only about 50 residents left. In the 1950s, Charles Bovee, a former state senator, decided to buy up land and other properties in Nevada City. He moved several old structures in and recreated the ghost town. Today, it's ran by the state of Montana and is a tourist attraction. 14 of the structures that are here are original to Nevada City. The other ones, which is almost 100 structures, are from various places around the area which were moved in.
People here. That's the end of Virginia.
No, this was Nevada City. This was the one that that guy was working middle.
shackles. After leaving the museum, we drove by one of the old dredges that actually destroyed most of this town in the early 1900s. Just a mile or so up the road is Nevada City's sister city, and that's Virginia City. Virginia City also sprang up in 1863, but by 1865 it had grown to over 10,000 people and became the capital for the Montana Territory. By 1868, this city had over 1,200 buildings, and over 200 of them still remain today. Take the blacktop and the vehicles away, and you could imagine this looking a whole lot like it did back in that time. Well, Virginia City doesn't have the population that it did once before. As of now, it only has about 150 year-round residents, but it sees almost 500,000 visitors annually now. Before leaving town, we had to stop and top off with some good old Fire Chief gasoline. As soon as we left town, we made our way back on the dirt and across the Oxalotl Wilderness. By the time the day drew to a close, we didn't have a whole lot of options for camping, so we ended up at a BLM campsite along the river. So when it's too windy to cook outside, you had a late lunch. It's time to snack. Deb's grabbed a salami sandwich and I've grabbed the trusty Crunch Berries. The next morning we were up and moving pretty early. We weren't the only ones up and moving around that early. The prairie dogs were out and moving around everywhere. The plan for the day was to get back up into the mountains and head south along Gravely Ridge. Gravelly Ridge Road runs for about 30 miles, and according to Trails Off-road, it is one stunning view after stunning view. We couldn't wait to get up on top. The only problem was, looked like we were going to be pretty clouded in, so we were hoping that that was going to be clearing up. It wasn't long of making elevation before we got out of the wide open expansive areas and into the pine trees again. All the while as we were climbing, we were getting closer and closer to the bottom of the clouds. It never ceases to amaze us the strange things that we see while we're out traveling, and some things you just gotta stop and get a closer look at. By the time we had hit about 7,800 feet of elevation, we had made it to the base of the clouds.
So one of the disadvantages to shooting pretty much everything on your phone is it fills up. Well, since the phone's full, we decided to download some of them onto the computer and make a little bit of tea.
What's happening there?
So there's been a chance of thunderstorms. Said we're going to hit about 3 o'clock. They didn't miss it by much. It's 20 minutes till 3 now. And we're close to it. We're watching it though. Hopefully we stay just barely north of it. We'll see. It did have some hail in it a minute ago, but it's kind of settled down now.
By the time that we had made it to the top of the mountain where we were going to turn left and go south onto Gravelly Ridge, we were firmly in the clouds, and we also had weather moving in. We made the decision to go ahead and cross the mountain and get down off of the other side and make our way down the canyon that way instead of being up on the ridge. It was pretty obvious we weren't going to see those epic views with the clouds the way they were.
Clearing up before our eyes.
Wow.
As we headed off the west side of the mountain, we could see that the clouds were trying to clear up. The view was going to get better, and hopefully the weather in general was going to get better for the rest of the day for us. By the time we had made it to the southern end of the Centennial Divide, we were really glad that the rain hadn't caught us. We would have been in a really muddy mess. From the divide, we made our way into the Centennial Valley. This is a beautiful, expansive valley, and we headed east from there towards West Yellowstone. Overlanding these two states was bucket list items for all of us involved. We felt like we seen a whole lot there, but we also felt like there's a lot more to explore. Thanks again for riding with us, and until next time, see ya.